welcome to the Evil Empire. I'm your host, Evil Empire, and this week's feature is Tajic's Knights. So here we have a Boros Knight tribal themed deck that is trying to take advantage of a new card in the format in terms of Showdown of the Scalds, which was released with Kaldheim at the end of January last month. So we're trying to do kind of what we talked about at the end of the video last week, where we take Showdown and we put it into an aggressive deck, and we see if that shell is a little bit better suited to play the historic game, if you will, in a bit of more aggro fashion with this deck. So we've got a really, really good shell to the deck, something that can really benefit from having a lot of Knight synergies, but we've also just got a bunch of powerful cards that are going to let us compete in the format. You know, we've got Bonecrusher Giant kind of holding up the deck, just letting us do the kind of powerful things that the mono red decks can do, and that card advantage that we're getting from Bonecrusher is really a big deal. Having that 4/3, I've had it just be a big deal that it'd be able to trade with something like a Questing Beast, like out of Gruul, for example, and that's been a huge deal in terms of just getting the power level of this deck a little bit higher and getting the card advantage a little bit from the adventure cards. So also in the 3-drop spot, we've got the namesake card in terms of Tajic, Legion's Edge. The haste on Tajic is the one thing that I think is the most underappreciated, but I have also had at least one opponent who did not read the middle line of text on Tajic, where it says prevent all non-combat damage that would be dealt to other creatures you control. That part has turned out to be pretty relevant in terms of just preventing like a sweeper. If they do have a sweeper or even a burn spell, something like that, they have to point it at Tajic first. Whatever spot removal they have that might be damage based has to go against Tajic. And so I think just being able to come out as a haste threat, maybe protect a little bit of damage from happening, maybe add a counter to a 2 power creature that we're attacking with as we attack with Tajic, and sometimes even just getting the last couple points of damage in against an opponent that we've really had a good game against. If we can just get those last few points in with Tajic, sometimes it's really a huge deal. History of Benalia as a 2 of, because it's not that great, because it costs 3 mana, and from that point of view, it's not quite as good as it was in Standard in this particular deck when we have it here. But so only as a 2 of, but the recurring value and the pump on the Knights, the 2+2+1 that they get in the 3rd chapter goes really well, both with our Showdown of the Scalds and with Embercleave. It's going to help to pump up the power of our creatures so we can get in there and beat them down with Embercleave. Circle of Loyalty is mostly in here as a gaff, just because everybody always makes fun of how completely underpowered this card is, and they're probably right. But it does buff our tokens that we get with the Worthy Knight, and it does let us grind a little bit into the later game. If we want to start activating that, we've probably had a pretty bad game in the sense that we're trying to grind it out with just making a 2/2 and with Vigilance for 4 mana and tapping it. Like, that's not the best possible thing for us to do, but it does let us grind a little bit into the late game if we need to, although I've never actually activated this in a little bit short of 40 games with the deck. Never activated the Circle of Loyalty once, so it kind of gives you an idea. And then, of course, we can also trigger Circle's middle ability, where if I cast a legendary spell, for example, Tajic, I'm going to be able to make a token off of the Circle of Loyalty there. In the 2-drop spot, we have probably the best card as far as our payoffs for Knights go. The Worthy Knight is one that's going to get a token for us, and we're then going to be able to pump that token with maybe like a Rally the Ranks, Circle of Loyalty, or I've also had the tokens just be super useful as chump blockers, which we'll see a little bit later. This deck really benefited from having Worthy Knight, and I find it's not at the high power level that Core Spirit Dancer is, but like if Worthy Knight is not taken out, or if I get, for example, if I get a Dauntless Bodyguard down and I'm able to protect the Worthy Knight and I keep making the tokens and having that free value, it can definitely run away with the game. I mean, I've had it before where opponents just concede to a turn 2 Worthy Knight, and maybe they just didn't happen to have that Fatal Push or that Bloodchief's Thirst in hand. But definitely the Worthy Knight lives in fear of, like, Shock and Bonecrusher Giant, Fatal Push, all the most played removal spells in the format will get to it. But, you know, maybe we get a little bit of value out of it first before the opponent's able to locate their kill spell. We have 12 1-drops that are all knights. This is the sort of core of the deck. And then if you take a look, I also have Kabira Takedown as the 21st and 22nd lands in this deck. We're running a very low land count to try to help us hit the most possible low mana, 1 mana spells off of Showdown. That's also why we have Rimrock Knight in the deck at all. It's not really a historic playable creature, except that in this deck we're able to get extra value off of the 1 mana spell, Boulder Rush. We're able to get a little bit of extra value. When we hit that off of Showdown, we can exile the Rimrock Knight in the Adventure Zone from playing it with Showdown, and that's a really good way to get 2 spells out of 1. You know, and just get an extra trigger off the Worthy Knight as we cast the creature side. Maybe if we have Showdown out, we can even drop a few counters on a creature, pump it up a bit even more. With the Rimrock, same thing with Bone Crusher. It's super nice to hit off of Showdown because you can just put it right into exile, having used the adventure creature part of it as a second spell later, maybe during the 3rd chapter, for example. And so that pretty much covers the deck from the cards perspective. I'll just use a little trick that Arjuna from the ArenaCraft pod taught me on a stream to show you what the creature base kind of looks like. And so this is the creature base right here. We have about 23 knights, I think. Or, wait, let's see. That's 16, 17, 18... So 21 knights with the Inspiring Veteran. I only have this as a 3 of because it's a little bit tricky to cast sometimes, and frankly it's just not that great, although certainly the opponents fear the Lord, the 2-mana Lord. These 7 are the non-knight creatures, and they're really just in here to give us a little bit of extra oomph. And with Bone Crusher, it's just fantastic card advantage and removal. All in one here. With Tajic, it's that haste and that ability to prevent some damage. Maybe get in there for an extra point or 2 of damage itself. And then we kind of have the non-creature spells down here that you can take a look at. But that's pretty much the deck. Something that I didn't actually have on my theory craft for KHM, but was something that once I had played a little bit with the with the Mardu deck rather from last week, I just felt like it was probably worth trying out in an aggro shell as well. From the mana base over here, I definitely don't think this is fully optimized yet, but I do like the ability to have so many different dual lands in the deck. I'm definitely maxing out on Inspired Advantage. This is definitely a deck that can really take advantage of Inspired Advantage, so to speak. You know, we really are trying to have our mana be untapped, trying to use all of our mana in the first 3 turns. So Inspiring Advantage is excellent for that. Oh, it's a little bit tricky later in the game. Like, you obviously can't hit it as your 4th land for Showdown because it's not going to come in untapped. Once you get past your 3rd turn onto your 4th land, this no longer comes in untapped. So it also does not have the plains or mountain type for Clifftop Retreat. That's why we've tried to cut down on Clifftop Retreat a little bit, because if you have it in this deck, like where you only draw Clifftop Retreat as your opening land, like so let's say you even just draw the 2 that I have here in the deck, can be pretty awkward on those first turns of the game when you really want to be using your mana to make a board presence, try to get ahead on board. So one last thing in the mana base is a Castle Embereth, hoping to maybe pump the knights a little bit more as we put them into combat. With Castle Embereth, a way to use our mana to pump creatures there. So that is Tajic's Knights, a Boros Knights deck. Kind of a new thing that I'm trying here with the release of Kaldheim. And so let's take a look at how it did when we put it through its paces on the historic ladder. All right, here we go. Yeah, seems fine. That's a keep. Alright, opponent leads on Overgrown Tomb, Untapped, and Thoughtseize. Alright, so what are we going to take here? My guess would be the highest converted mana cost card. My guess would be taking Showdown of the Skulls here. Let's see what opponent goes for. I usually just default to whatever is the highest CMC as my choice. But I wonder what the opponent will pick here. Okay, actually chooses Inspiring Veteran instead. Respecting the go wide with the 3/1 drops that I have. Okay. So turn 1 Venerable Knight. After playing Sacred Foundry untapped, go to 18. Opponents at 16 to start their turn. Forest Scavenging Ooze. Alright, we're going to take that out with Bone Crusher. Show the power of Bone Crusher. Why we want to have this giant in our Knights tribal deck. So attack them for 2 down to 14. And they go to their third turn. Play a Forest. Play a second Scavenging Ooze. Okay, well we don't have removal for that one, so that's going to stick around for a minute, which is unfortunate because it's going to gain them a little bit of life. Make them a pretty big creature. Okay, that's a really good draw. Yeah, Worthy Knight was definitely the sort of thing that we needed off the top here. A little bit of go wide action. So we get to play double Fervent Champion next turn and make a couple of tokens. We're not going to attack. They're going to eat our Inspiring Veteran and put a 3/3 there. Put a counter on their 2/2, make it a 3/3. So they untap. They move to attack me. I'm not going to block. So from 16, I'm going to go to at least 13. Nope, they're going to choose to eat one of their own creatures there, so I'm actually going to go to 12 at least. Okay, so no more creature cards in graveyards. I'm at 12 life. Oh, jeez, okay. So the Knight gets the counter regardless of when the life loss happened. No land. Still on 2 land. That's kind of tricky. I think since their black mana is tapped, I'm not sure if I'm going to go with the other Fervent Champion or the Dauntless here. Let's just put Dauntless down and get Worthy Knight at least 1 rebuy on a removal spell like a Bloodchief's Thirst or a Fatal Push. I'm definitely very highly aware of the Fatal Push Bloodchief Thirst that this person definitely has in their deck. If they're running Thoughtseize, they're definitely running the other 1 mana removals. Although, you know, technically Thoughtseize not removal, but... Okay, so no attacks into their Knight. But we'd look to have a little bit of a wider board next turn. And we're definitely going to use these 2 1/1s as chump blockers if they attack with their Knight and their Ooze. So they move to combat immediately. Attack with both. Yeah, so neither of these have trample. We're just going to block them. Chump block them. And we should hit back pretty hard next turn. So that way we're not giving anything as food to the Scavenging Ooze. And that's going to be our turn because we didn't draw any land. Or they didn't draw any land, sorry. It's going to be our turn with them not drawing land. Other Ooze for them. Alright, so the Inspiring Knight, whatever, Inspiring Veteran. Guy who inspires the other creatures to get bigger. Now we have a pretty nice attacking position here, so we're just going to go for it. Not with Bodyguard. We want to keep Bodyguard alive. Put this on the Knight because they can't block the Knight profitably. So we'll get an extra with the Knight. They're going to trade for something, probably Venerable Knight. Would be my guess, because that's their best trade target, I think. Yeah, okay, so trade that Ooze with Venerable Knight, and then you're going to eat both creatures to get to be a 6/6 on the Scavenging Ooze by the time their turn rolls around. And we'll throw this counter on the first strike creature. Okay, so they eat like I thought. Make it into a 5/5, put a counter, make it 5/5. So we can block one of these pretty profitably, just chumping it with the 1/1 that we have. Hopefully they don't attack with both. Okay, so they don't attack with both. That's good for us. I mean, they're fully dead if they don't leave back the Ooze, so they really have to just attack with one here. I think it's the right play, but would have definitely been tough to try to block that 5/5. But now we don't have to because we put them at a pretty low life total already. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh, that's the one we wanted. That is the card that we wanted to have happen. So there's definitely something to be said for just kind of spreading the power around here, and we're going to see how they block Because if they block wrong, they are done. Definitely some thought to like trying to take out the ooze when it becomes a 6/6. Trying to like get it with Embercleave. There's some thought to that, but I think if you have the win after they declare blocks, just take a win. Definitely want to also think about maybe trying to put it on Worthy Knight, because the bodyguard protects it from removal, so if they do have Fatal Push, it's not a problem here. Yep, target Worthy Knight, 4 mana, the full discount on Embercleave. They do not have removal spell, so we're going to get in here for the full amount that we need. And then some. I did not expect to win that game. I was expecting to get Fatal Pushed out of existence. So good. Okay, so it looks like we're playing against a Lurrus deck. It's either going to be the Lurrus Auras, or it's going to be Rakdos Lurrus. Yeah, this is a pretty keepable hand. Pretty much the ideal curve with Worthy Knight. And if we want, we can actually hold the Dauntless until turn 3 and just play it together with Inspiring Veteran. I think seems like the best play here. So we'll just go Plains and say go. Opponent leads on Dragon Skull Summit tapped, now Swamp along with that, and Dreadhorde Arcanist. Okay, so it's definitely the Rakdos Lurrus version. Please no Fatal Push, please no Bloodchief's Thirst. One time. I only need this one, I need them to not have it this one turn, because I can put the bodyguard down next and give it a bit of a rebuy. Alright, Young Peasy and then Bloodchief's Thirst. Please don't tase me. Please don't tase me. Please, for once, don't tase me. Okay, Village Rites is excellent here. No attacks, because why would you? Okay, so Inspiring Vantage, then we're going to go Inspiring Veteran. So much inspiration happening. Dauntless Bodyguard, make another Toki. And play that. Okay, so 3/3 attack you. No blocks. They've thought about it for longer than... Does that mean they maybe have a claim? If they thought about blocking there at all? Okay, so they're going to go Fabled Passage, pick up a Mountain, probably, because they want to have that second one. Yep. And what next, opponent? Another Pyromancer. Okay. Oh, they're messing around in their graveyard. Yeah, there it is. There's the claim that we thought they might have when they considered blocking with the Arcanist. So Arcanist attacks, goes and gets Village Rites. They sack a token, make a couple more. Oh yeah, because I would have just, yeah, that's a good call. I would have just blocked with Dauntless. So make a bunch of Tokis. Anything to do with that one last mana? Ooh, another Claim Fame. That hurts. That is hurtful. Now, we get to Embercleave this turn, and we get to do it for just 2 mana again. So let's pump things up again. Go ahead and attack with everything. Feels good. Now let's take a look at how they block. Okay. This is going to definitely influence where we put the Embercleave. Yeah, they're blocking in a way that makes it very easy for me to just, yeah, we're going to put it on Inspiring Veteran and just take down all their 1/1s here and get to keep our Veteran. We'll use it more as a combat trick than really to, like, push damage here. Which, you know, some person might not choose to do that. They might want to just go for, you know, max damage, putting it on Worthy Knight here. That's definitely a play that might be better. I don't know. Alright, so opponent has oodles of mana. 5 mana available, having played their Swamp for a turn. What are they going to do? Okay, so Spark Harvest on the Inspiring Veteran that's wearing the Embercleave. Make a pair of 1/1s, sack one of them. Okay, so Embercleave drops off, and then they're going to go ahead and play the Spark Harvest again with the Arcanist, targeting the other Veteran. Yeah. Yep, makes sense. It's the best target, really. Although they could have gone, you know, after the Dauntless Bodyguard and gone after Worthy Knight, which also would have been a good call, but I don't know what is really better from their perspective. Okay, Arcanist again. All of the Arcanists here. And then this is just to make a pair of tokens, which I don't know if I agree with that, but okay. Also technically legal play you can make. Okay, so Ripping Veteran is pretty good. Get some inspiration out there. Suit up with Embercleave on the Worthy Knight. Again, perhaps where it should have gone to begin with. Should I have attacked with the other 1/1 here? Don't think so. Just keep that back. Along with Dauntless Bodyguard and see where they block. Okay, so that means if they're going to stack up that many things, we're probably going to have to activate Dauntless Bodyguard here and just pray that they don't have removal, which they haven't had a lot of in this game, even though they've been drawing a ton of cards. Okay, so let's order blockers in a way that makes sure we get rid of young pyromancers here and just leave them with a couple of tokens left over at the end. Let's count that up. 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so that's where it goes to. Okay. So we're going to say, before we go next and resolve the damage, we're just going to get rid of the Knight, sack it to get indestructible. Yep, take out a bunch of things here. Leave them with very little board presence. Now, Worthy Knight is definitely vulnerable here. I really did not expect the game to go this well, especially with the number of tokens that they've made over the course of the game. But we've just been mowing them down with Embercleave, so they can make as many elementals as they wish. I'm just going to take them out with a big flaming sword. Okay, looks like we're getting the Salt Rope here from 10 to you. This time they didn't really live up to their name, did they? They only dealt 1 to me. Maybe your name should be 1 to you, because that's more apt here from the opponent. Okay, so luckily they only have 1 timeout to make us wait through. So there goes their 1 timeout. And now we get Salt Roped again. This is what I don't understand. Like, it's a game. It's just a game, opponent. You don't have to be such a salty loser, opponent. I think what gets people is when they lose to a jank deck like this and they know that it's not a real deck in the format. They just get super mad about it. I've had people concede to Worthy Knight on turn 2 with this deck. Alright, so Tajic, and we'll probably have to wait another little bit here to resolve Tajic because our opponent's a big baby. But yeah, Tajic coming down here definitely seals their fate. Love the haste on Tajic. Really an underappreciated card in Standard when it was in Standard, but those of us who played a lot of Standard in that format, we respected Tajic because I definitely lost to it a bunch of times. And I love that people don't read Tajic and then try to use burn spells while he's on the field. And they don't point the burn spells at Tajic first, which they should. And then they get real mad. Not quite as mad as our opponent here, but... Okay, so Tajic finally comes down. Play Kabira Takedown. You can see that this is a pretty good card with this deck because we always have a lot of creatures. And swing in for lethal damage. Oh, which the opponent does have to resolve because they're out of timeouts. Okay, so kind of unexpected. Pretty good job. On to the next one. No, cannot possibly keep that. Yes, this is much more keepable. The question is, do we put back a land or do I put back a spell? I think I'm going to put back one of the 3 drops. Either Tajic or Bone Crusher, but Bone Crusher has a second another spell staple to it, so probably Tajic. Sorry, Tajic. Hope to see you later. All right, so we're going to lead on Inspiring. Now we're going to lead on Sacred Foundry tapped. into Worthy Knight. Opponent leads on Snow-Covered Forest, Llanowar Elves. Looks like we're playing against the Elves deck. It's a terrible matchup here. Inspiring Vantage, Worthy Knight. Yeah, this deck just does not beat Elves. Elves gets too big too quickly, and there's just no chance. It's like probably a 70-30 matchup at best. Maybe worse. I don't know if I've ever beaten Elves with this. Maybe once. Yeah, Shepherd's got to go. The only thing that's really effective that I've found, if you're a creature deck against the Elves, you want to have a Hushbringer. I find that it just shuts down a lot of their nonsense. You know, but even then, you're not really in great shape. Unless you can clock them super hard and gain a ton of life. Like Auras can. Yeah, we can't even attack here. This is just, we're never even going to deal them damage. Okay, so they're obviously holding up Collected. Let's force them to use Collected by Kabira, target their Llanowar Elves. Just make them get it out there, and hopefully they don't hit on it pretty well. Okay, so spend 4 mana, Collected Company. And what did they hit here? Yeah, they get 6 mana worth of Elves out of it. That's about the best hit they can have is 2/3 drops, and those are both of their lords. Yeah, this game's done. Game's over. We're not going to win. I'll play it out. Bah, I don't even think that Tajic makes this any better. Like, just didn't matter. Now they've got a billion D mana. Just play out their entire deck right now. So War Master's gonna make a 3/3 every time. Jeez. Seems good. Oh yeah, get some card advantage while you're at it. Realmwalker has definitely made the cut into this deck. People love this Realmwalker card. I've even played against Tyvar, but I think that was just people were just trying it out that one time. But looks like War Master and Realmwalker are definitely going to make the cut into this deck. Yeah, no blocks. It's pointless. Just let them win. Second Bone Crusher makes no difference. Get to deal them a couple of damage points. That's about it. Alright. So, here comes the loss. Everybody get ready. Ugh, really? You're going to play out more cards? Really? Just swing in. This is where we get to do a little character assessment of the opponent. And I'm back with Tajic's Knights. So this deck performed a lot better than I thought it would. I was kind of afraid that having built it as one of the few original decks that I've actually done in this entire series, that it was going to just fall flat on its face. It actually did okay. It went on the ranked ladder, it went 3 and 4. So not the best choice for ranked perhaps, but in the unranked queue, I was 16 and 12 for a 57% record. So maybe something that you want to think about if you're interested in kind of splashing around in the unranked queue, you know, for whatever fun you can get out of a Boros Knights deck. I hope you enjoy. Some of the choices I think are a little questionable. I'm not sure that History of Benalia is the best choice for this particular deck. I don't know how much it really adds at the 3 mana slot. Maybe you just want to be maxing out on cheaper creatures that are knights. And I think just the lower you can get your curve, the better with this deck. Also not sure about Circle of Loyalty. It might just need to be a 3rd Embercleave, as Embercleave is really the card I think that is going to win you the most games with this particular build. I know people have said, at least what I've seen here and there, that Embercleave is a bit of a nombo with Showdown. I don't actually think so, because when you're casting Embercleave for 2 mana and you get to put a counter with Scalds, it actually does play together pretty nicely. You're buffing your creature an additional power and toughness before you put the Embercleave on it, just by casting Embercleave in combat. So I think from that point of view, it definitely helped me get an extra point or 2 of damage in here and there to have the 2 combined. And I think even if you hit Embercleave off of showdowns, you're not particularly upset because in this deck, you're often going to have a lot of creatures on board. This really wants to go wide, and then showdown kind of helps us continue to buff creatures, and we can also go tall with showdown, and then having gone tall with showdown, putting Embercleave on a creature is a great way to finish a game, right? We all know this from Standard, but it works just as well in Historic. So that is Tajic's Knights for this week. I hope you've enjoyed taking a look at it. I think there's something here. I think there might be, possibly with the printing of one or two more really low curve, good Knight synergy cards, this could really take it to a different place. So, maybe one or two printings away from being a real deck in the format, something that I think is really fun to play, and you should definitely check out if you're interested in low curve, high synergy aggro decks. So that's it for this week. I want to say thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. This is Evil Empire signing out.